Hey everyone, Jason here from Off the Beaten Path. Now, it's a little bit shorter trip video today. Today we're exploring the Pyrenees Ranges a little bit, and for those that don't know, they're sort of located in central western Victoria. This is the Grampians over here, so they're sort of east or northeast of the Grampians, just west of Maryborough, and sort of southwest of Bendigo up here. So this blue line, as always, is the track that we've taken. So you can see just outside the town of Avoka, home of the famous Pyrenees Pies Bakery. If you follow us on Facebook, you've probably seen a post or two of me stopping there. So I hadn't done a lot of research on this trip. I was actually on the way to visit family and just took the advantage of the fact that I was in the area. So let me just zoom in, probably best working on the topo maps for this. A lot of these tracks, you can't see the names otherwise. So look, we headed out Dawson's Road, then took a left along Impey's Road, then turned right and headed in on the Sugarloaf track. There's some nice steep little sections on that. Before heading on to Spit track back to Waterfall track, which is one of the main sort of roads, and then around on Eveling track, up Fraser track, which basically climbs up to the main ridgeline, and then along Main Break track to Mt Avoca. From there we headed back out via Main Break track, and then took Hardy track, which was a bit of a shortcut up over the hill rather than following the main road sort of all the way around. Took Hardy track up over the hill and then out via Miles Lane. So look, without any further ado guys, let's get into it. So here we are, just heading west out of Avoca on Dawson's Road, as I said in the intro, and this is literally just exploring. You can see the Pyrenees Ranges there in the distance, not too far away, just a couple of kilometres. It's an area that I've never really explored. I've driven past it many times on my way through to visit family, but never taken the time to sort of stop and explore. And this particular trip, I thought I would make a little bit of time and do just that. I didn't have time beforehand to do a lot of research, so when I got to Avoca, I just literally had a look at the map on my HEMA and navigated what I thought was sort of the most direct, or well, maybe not the most direct, but the most interesting way in. So you can see here, turning left on Impey's Road, those signs to the right actually suggested that turning right is the way to go to get to Mt Avoca. The signs are always going to sort of direct you to the main roads. This is a nice little backtrack. Really, it's a two-wheel drive. There's no sort of challenge in driving this. You can see pretty close to some paddocks and farmland. But it's a nice twisty little track, pretty well graded, and as Krusty would say, get some gravel in your travel. Always good to get off the bitumen. So coming through to this intersection here, it's a hard right-hand turn to head towards the Sugarloaf track. You can see we're definitely a lot closer to the hills now. Certainly not as high as something like the high country, that's for sure. But doesn't mean you can't find some interesting driving. They don't have to be super high hills to offer that. So like a lot of the Vic tracks, you can see there that post on the right hand side is a signage post. You do see them in a lot of the sort of state forest areas, and really handy for navigating. So yeah, I was wondering about this track right from the start here. It seemed very narrow and more like a bike hiking track than a vehicle track, but it was marked on the map as a vehicle track, so we continued on, and it does become apparent that it's definitely a vehicle track, but yeah, a little bit interesting. The first section here is just really winding its way around You can see back in that last shot on the left hand side a little bit of erosion, so obviously gets a fair flow of water through here when it does rain, but it was pretty dry when I came through. So this was filmed in late December. And yeah, it's sort of this first initial part, a Sugarloaf track, is just a steady, not very steep, but just a steady climb, sort of keeps you going. You can see a few humps here to divert water off the track. Track's in quite good condition. And yeah, look, I really didn't know what to expect, never having been in this area, but was happy to come and check it out and see what I could find. The track surface sort of did vary from gravel with a little bit of rock to a clay, and then, you know, a very dirt sort of, you know, typical dirt bush track like we're driving on sort of now. Bit of evidence that they've had bushfires through here in the last few years, but it's definitely recovering well. So yeah, that track on the left is an unnamed track, so continuing right here on the Sugarloaf track. And that little track on the left there's a gate with access down to the Sugarloaf Reserve. Not sure, reservoir I should say, not sure that that's a drinking water supply, could be for irrigation, not 100% sure. Little bit of a rutted climb here, you saw that just earlier on in this shot, and coming up here pretty well rutted, obviously gets slippery and soft when wet, and in the condition it is in today, nice and dry, so there's an easy option for spanning this, but it was definitely time to move the shifter into low range just to have a little bit more control. And no need to drive in those ruts, nice and easy just to span them and go over the top of them. Obviously if it was quite slippery and wet, you'd probably put your wheels in the ruts just to avoid slipping in, and quite a large rut on the left hand side here, which again we're able to quite easily stay out of, just because it is nice and dry, so traction's really good. So at this point I am still running those Bridgestone Supercat highway terrain tyres. Couple more trips with those and then I do change them out for something a lot better. So yeah, watch this space. But for now, still running those highway terrains. And certainly stuff like this, they don't have any issue. And you can see this is a long, steady climb. A lot of erosion there. Obviously that's part vehicle traffic and part water, I think, by the look of that, and was again easy enough to span and climb, but it was nice to find something a bit interesting to drive here, not knowing what I was going to find, and the start being basically just two-wheel drive fire trails. I was wondering if that's all I was going to find, but this sort of later section here of the Sugarloaf track, yeah, a little bit more interesting. Quite a steady climb. Cracking day for it, as you can see, you know, nice blue skies. And look, I love getting out solo like this, where you can just sort of take your time, and you know, these sort of trips I often don't put a lot of planning into, which if you've been watching the channel for a while, sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing. Today was a good thing. Got the opportunity to explore this area that I hadn't been to before, and spoiler alert, no major mishaps. Yeah, always enjoy exploring new tracks and new areas. And you can see here we're still climbing. It's not super steep or anything like that, but it's just a long, steady climb. And every time you sort of think you're getting towards the top of the hill, you sort of come around the corner and realise, no, it's still going up. Again, a little bit more of a rut in there. So in terms of elevation, we started off at down around 250, 260 metres, and we top out at the top of this track at 480 metres. So we're climbing vertically around about 200, 220 metres, something like that. So, you know, it's a good little climb. And you can see here, you know, a bit of erosion on this section of track, mostly in the centre where, again, water's probably run down and caused that. Traction was quite good. There's a bit of exposed rock there, and as you can see, it was bone dry when I was here, so no real issues at all. Definitely this section though, you do have to drive it. It's not a two-wheel drive section, you just don't need to pay attention to, so yeah, that was a nice little surprise. I can't remember exactly what day this was, whether this was a weekday or a weekend, but it was pretty close to Christmas, and I didn't see another vehicle the whole time I was here, and I was here for a good few hours, working my way through to Mt Avoca. So once again, you can see we're cresting that hill and realising we've still got more climbing to go. Bit of a ridgeline track this later section, as you can tell, with falls away sort of each side of the track, not steeply like some of the high country ones, but enough that you sort of get a little bit of a view here and there. It's hard to get too much of a view because the trees are fairly close around. But yeah, more so than what the camera sees with your own eyes. When you look, you do get a little bit of a sense of what's around you. And again, more evidence here of the bushfires, and we finally crested that hill, and now it's time to head down. So this section of track, at the top here, as I said, we're at about 480 metres, and when we get down to the bottom, we're at about 370, so about 110 metres down we're heading, and this section is a lot shorter, therefore steeper than the section we climbed up. So I think it'd be really interesting to drive this track in the opposite direction. This little climb here, particularly one choose your own adventure section, could be quite an interesting little drive coming the other way, I think. So you can see here there's a series of small rock steps, or hopefully you can see that. Just watch the way the front of the car moves. You can see as the front wheels are dropping down those rock steps. They're not real big, but definitely there, and that's why I say it'd be quite interesting coming back the other way in a vehicle. Just taking it slow and steady here. No need to rush. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that when you're solo, you do tend to take things a little more slowly and a little more carefully, because if you break something, it's probably going to be more of an issue. You don't have somebody there to help you tow it out or help you fix it. along to the next section here. Most of this, I think I stayed just in second gear low range. It probably didn't need to be second gear low range, probably could have driven a lot of it in third gear low range, but there's a big difference in gearing between the two, and second certainly helps control your speed without worrying too much about braking in almost any situation. Looking ahead there, that high spot sort of ahead is pretty much Mt Avoca. Now, nice big stick here on the track. You could drive over it, but twisted sticks like that, I always find it's better off not to. Not that the Land Cruiser's got CV boots like the Padge did that get torn by such things, but it's a 2-minute job just to jump out of the car and move that out of the way, and it's better for you and it's better for everybody else that might come along behind you. So yeah, rather than drive over that and risk it flicking up and damaging a panel or damaging something under the car, just so much easier just to move it, and safer, move it off the track and be done with it. So again, after a flatter section of track, we're onto a steeper descent. Getting closer to Mt Avoca all the time, as you can see. A few little rock steps here, small branch there on the track, that one we can definitely drive over. And as you can see up ahead here, it looks like the track forks. It does in fact fork. The left-hand option is what you might consider the B line. Anyway, I veered toward the right. It just looked more interesting, and that's kind of what I was looking for, and sure enough it was. Fairly steep, steppy little section of track here. You can see this is all exposed rock. So we just crawled down this. You know, decent step there. You saw the front end drop away. So I think I might have just stalled it there, knowing me, and just getting going and taking it real slow and steady. You can see those rocks on the right hand side there sitting up beside the track, wanting to avoid any panel damage, and just taking it steady for those rear quarters in a wagon that are always a little bit vulnerable. But we came down that quite nicely, and again, if you're coming the other way, I think that'd be pretty interesting to drive. So yeah, the right is the fun way, left is the easy way. A line and B line. So yeah, interesting little descent there. And we are getting towards the end of the Sugarloaf track now. A lot of our descent is sort of completed by this point. Exactly, so before very long at all, we're coming up here. Now, how that water was in those ruts is beyond me, but it was there. So yeah, turning right here onto the Schmidt track, which is sort of, it's a track, but really it's a road. It's called a track, but it's pretty much one of the main two-wheel drive roads. There's a few of these that I found through this state forest. And yeah, as you can see, very much a two-wheel drive road, this one. Nicely graded, well maintained, and quite easy to drive on. And it's only a short run, probably a kilometre or less, before we get down to the Waterfall track, which is again called a track, but an even more really main road through this part of the state forest. So if you follow the signs to Mt Avoca, you'll come in probably on tracks or roads like this. You can see nice concrete bridge here over this little stream. Bit of a camping picnic area there on the right, long drop toilets straight ahead. So there's quite a number of spots in and around here to camp with good amenities and facilities. So we're just pushing on here on this two-wheel drive main track or road called the Waterfall track. And as I said, I didn't pre-plan this route. I sort of just drove the first track, which was Sugarloaf, and then looked for an opportunity to get towards another track, which I'd identified up here a little bit further. So that's the reason I came this way, was to get to the next track that looked like it was going to have a bit of a climb and maybe something interesting, which was the Fraser track. You can see a big car park, sort of open camping area here. Designed for large groups that might be doing hiking or bushwalking in or around the local area. And just had a quick look in there before continuing on. Now, we didn't go too far past this to get to the start of the Fraser track. So basically just at the end of that campground parking area, turning left here onto the Fraser track. You can see there's another track on the right over there. I think that's a motorcycle or mountain bike track. I was a little bit unsure, so yeah, I did just stop there for a second and check my maps to make sure that I was in the right spot, and yes, I was. So continued on. This early section again is much like the last track, very much a two-wheel drive, fairly well graded section of track. And it doesn't take too long at all though, and it does start to climb. You can see another nice steady climb coming up ahead here. This one's probably got a little bit more of a clay base than the previous track. And again, some evidence of some erosion on the track, probably from water. You can see off to the left there, where it's been diverted off the track, it's definitely eroded a little bit. And much like the early part of the Sugarloaf track, this is a pretty steady sort of a climb. So again, just for reference on this track, we're starting off at about 330 meters at the bottom of this track, and we're finishing up at about 730. So we're climbing vertically about 400 meters along this track. A fair bit more than the Sugarloaf. You can see here this is a fair bit steeper than Sugarloaf track, but for all the steepness, the track was in good condition. Some loose rocks here and there, but traction really wasn't an issue. I think when we've come through, it's been graded not too long ago. You can see a lot of broken trees, some wood on the side, and some exposed sort of rock there, and some washouts look well graded, so a little bit of loss of traction there on that section. And yeah, just working our way up here. This sort of stuff is really no issue for the 76. Traction's good. Just sort of crawls along nicely. Again, probably driving most of this from memory in second gear, low range. more of a rutted section here, but again, nothing too difficult. And starting to open out up a little bit as we're getting a little bit higher. Again, some evidence there of more erosion on the track, but we're quickly past that corner. A lot of the trees that are down, I think, are from a previous bushfire where they've been damaged by the bushfire that's come through. It certainly seems to have thinned it out quite a lot. Those that are still living seem to have recovered well. A little bit of a break along here from climbing, a little sort of flatter section before getting back into the next climb. And again, like a lot of the sections here, it's a pretty steady climb. Love to come back and just explore this area a little bit more, so I'll certainly try and do that, try and find some other tracks, see if I can find some that are a little bit more technical, but you know, based on what I've seen so far, I think you know, anyone with a reasonable four-wheel drive is not going to have too much of an issue in this area. So, good little rocky climb here. These tracks don't look like they get a lot of traffic. I guess the local population is not that big, and the Pyrenees are probably not a destination for four-wheel driving the way the big high country is. So yeah, the tracks that I saw are generally in pretty good nick. Again, here you can see that long steady climb just coming up ahead. And we're just about, I think, at the end of this section of track. Just coming up here onto the main track or main road that is the access to Mt Avoca. So this is the main break track, which we're turning left on and heading towards Mt Avoca summit. You can see this is very much, again, a two-wheel drive road. So we just changed out of low range. Certainly no need for that along here. Very much a road, and we're just coming up here on the summit, and I almost missed it. Saw the sign just there and quickly slowed down. They can be a little bit subtle, those signs. Just reversing up and lining up to head up to the summit. There is a trig point marker here. Always a good indication. Looks like I managed to stall it again. Just needs a little bit more gas when you're taking off in first gear on a little bit of an incline. And looks like this gets used as a bit of a camping area up here. You can see a reasonably fresh campfire, but I've just driven around there. And there is the trig point for Mt Avoca. Hey everyone, here we are, the top of Mt Avoca. So in the Pyrenees Range, just outside Avoca, 747 metres. Not that high in the context of the high country, but around here there's not a lot of hills. We definitely come the scenic way, Sugarloaf track, and then onto some sort of main track, and then shortcut track up to here. I'll put a map at the start of this one. There's I was following HEMA trails. They're all marked easy. I wouldn't call them easy. Definitely a medium. Anyway, if you got to this part of the video, you've seen what we've driven up and down. Yeah, there we are. And I didn't even really let the tyres down here, to be honest, guys. So again, those road bicycle terrains are just doing a really good job. No lookout or anything up here. Looks like somebody's used it as a campsite recently. It's probably not a marked campsite, but yeah, nice little spot. I'm actually on the way to visit my mum at the moment, so we're going to head from here across to the Grampians, which is not far. There's one track in the Grampians that I want to tackle. Can't remember the name of it. I'll look it on the map when we get there. And then, yeah, from there back to my mum's place to visit her for a few days. So, yeah, always wanted to explore the Pyrenees. Plenty more tracks here. We'll find our way out. We're going to head across to Stall now and into the Grampians from there. So yeah, as you just heard, yeah, look, all those tracks are marked easy on HEMA. I guess it's probably a fair comment by me there, I suppose, saying that they probably should be mediums. Sugarloaf, definitely medium. Maybe Fraser, that last climb maybe warrants a medium. But yeah, they're certainly not difficult. And as long as you don't even need particularly high clearance on most of those. So, and as you heard, I all right, was a bit lazy. One last track in the Pyrenees before we head out. Hardy track. It's a shortcut up over the hill instead of going round. Seems like a good idea. What could happen? Let's find out. So yeah, I didn't film too much of that main road. It was very much two-wheel drive, sitting on about 60 k's an hour, and yeah, shortcut track. You know, amongst the guys that come with me on trips, I'm certainly known for picking shortcut tracks and getting myself into trouble at different times. So I thought I'd actually film that at the start of this one, being a shortcut track. No issues on this one. As you can see, it started off pretty easy. It's a steady little climb, but you know, plenty of traction, nothing too difficult, and this is about as difficult as it gets. It's a nice little drive up over the hill though. But yeah, so as I was saying, you know, Fraser track, Sugarloaf track, maybe they're mediums, but yeah, keeping in mind I was driving this at 40 psi because I was feeling a bit lazy and I knew I was jumping back on the bitumen fairly quickly, and I didn't want to mess around airing up, and I wasn't expecting anything too difficult, and I didn't find anything too difficult. So as you can see, coming down here, probably not doing it quite justice on the camera, but it was not quite a nice little view out to the north as we worked our way down this hill. You could see through the trees sort of quite nicely. And this is just a nice steady descent, pretty easy. Certainly with a 76, with the engine braking that I get in low range, really, yeah, no issue at all. Driving down this sort of stuff, I don't even touch the brakes at all. This would just be second gear, low range, and just let the car sort of set its own speed. Track just joining on there, but yeah, we kept heading past that one. So from here the plan was to head down to Miles Lane and then out to Glenlofty Warrenmang Road, and from there head across to Stawell and the Grampians to check out Maunders track, which is apparently the most difficult track in the Grampians. That was the plan. Anyway, you'll have to check out the next video to see how that goes. You can see here making pretty good pace as we're getting towards the exit from the Pyrenees. And very much two-wheel drive road. So look, there's a lot of spots here you can find for campsites, and I hope this has been interesting for you guys, something a little bit different to a lot of our big high country content that we often put out there. Hopefully, like me, you guys enjoy exploring other areas and seeing other parts of the country, and if you find yourself in central western Victoria, the Pyrenees could be a good option to explore. You could easily take a couple of days, find a couple of good campsites and explore the region. So as you can see, coming out here of the State Forest, we're coming on to Miles Lane here. So just dropping here, I think probably out of 4 high down to two-wheel drive. And getting ready to head out to the bitumen. So yeah, as I said guys, hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like this video if you liked it. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments down below, or even if you liked it and you just want to tell me, I always read all the comments and reply to them myself. And if you'd like to support the channel and what we do, you can jump on to our Buy Me a Coffee page. The link is in the video description down below. I will see you in the next video, guys. Thanks for watching, particularly if you watched right to the end. I really appreciate that.